Okay, well, I'd like to welcome everyone to the Parks and Recreation Committee June 21st meeting, and we'll take a roll call. So maybe we'll just go around the room and
Brian Vincent.
Dawn Wittenberg.
Judy Iverson.
Larry Schultz,
Mary Larson.
Claudio Groppetti.
Jeanette June.
and Ann Monkey's with us as well from staff. So it looks like we're all here this evening, so thank you for attending. First order of business then is to approve the minutes from the last meeting, which was held on May 17th. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
I move to approve the minutes from May.
Okay, motion by Jeanette. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Claudio. Any discussion or questions on the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the May 17th minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Is there any, I guess we have nobody in the audience this evening, but does anybody here have any items that they'd like to bring up, petitions, proclamations, suggestions this evening? Okay, Claudio disappeared on us. Hopefully he's okay.
Can't hide under the desk.
I'm trying to find power.
Okay, all right,
I found it,
good.
I think.
All right, hearing no petitions, proclamations, suggestions, et cetera, we'll move on to old business. And over the last several months, we've been spending a fair amount of time, most of our time actually, coming up with a process to come up with a capital improvement plan. And we identified projects with Ann's help, and we added a few. And last month, we went through and put them in different tiers. And this evening, we hope to come to a final conclusion as to what we're going to present to the city council for their purposes of incorporating this plan with all the other needs within the city. So with that, we'll turn it over to Ann to help us through the final stages here.
Thank you. Good evening, members, and thank you for all being here this evening. So, as Larry indicated, we have been working on this project for the last several months, and just kind of to recap for you, the final rankings that the committee had recommended, and I did include in the memo those projects that actually were listed in the CIP and those that were not listed in the CIP. And just to refresh your memory, the outdoor pickleball courts were new. The Lions Shelter rehab, Lions Shelter 2 rehab was not listed as a project. The Holy Family tennis courts were not identified or listed as a project. And then the land for a community park was also not listed. The rest of them within that tier 1 ranking all were included in that. So at the last meeting, I did promise you that I would put together a very preliminary budget estimate for all of the tiers. In your packet, I did go into the 3 tiers, but for tonight's discussion, I'm just kind of focusing on tier number 1, since this will take us out probably 10 to 15 years within this category. So just again, focusing on that. Again, these are some pretty rough budget numbers for purposes of at least getting them into the CIP. Certainly things do change as, on an annual basis, and the committee will be able to review and react and change things as we move into next year, once we get to the 2022 budget moving. So with that, and I don't know if anybody has any questions related to those dollar amounts, or if there's any questions related to them at all, happy to answer them. If not, I'm going to move right then into the Parks Capital Improvement Plan. And I did provide you with a large sheet, so you'd have that to also look at this evening. And
And I was just gonna say, I would guess that the dollar amounts were on the high end, that you,
some are and some are not,
oh, okay.
depending upon which one. So like the tennis courts at Lions, that's a pretty accurate number. The Bayfront Plaza improvements are a pretty accurate number. And then the boardwalk number is pretty good. Tennis court number is pretty good for Holy Family. And then the park numbers are fairly good too, so.
Oh, okay.
The only one that I really don't have a clue, and a lot's gonna depend on location. If there's a retrofit for the pickleball courts, that's the only one that I really don't have a solid number on.
Yeah.
You know, if we were to go start from scratch somewhere, and, you know, then I think the number's probably pretty good. If we're doing, say, example, a retrofit somewhere, that number's gonna be high,
Okay.
so.
So that assumes we own the land that we have, that we'd be putting that, we would not have to acquire the land.
Correct. Yes, all of these, like Lakeside Estates Phase 2, that was a park dedication piece. The South Area Park, the Rolling Hills one is a park dedication piece. So yes, every scenario here, with the exception of the future land for community park is currently or would be land that the city owned.
On the Bayfront Park Plaza improvement, the dollar amount listed as $180,000. Is that include an offset for donations, or is that just the total cost?
That's the total cost.
Okay, so before we had talked about getting some donations from that, so if we set a goal with that, that might help eliminate part of the pro forma deficit that happens in 2025, because I would assume that we're trying to get this to balance out too before we present it to the council.
Yeah, as well as we can, so.
Okay.
Yeah. Because yes, in 2025, there is a deficit. And again, I think, you know, the pickleball courts and the Lions Court rehab is somewhat of a, one that I think it could help balance that out.
Okay.
If we decided to go there, you know, and save that money for this year and then move it into next. And then if that pickleball number is high, I think that will help balance things out too, so.
Where's the Bayfront Park?
Right down here?
Oh, right there.
Yes. So the plaza, the Bayfront Plaza improvements are where the existing, I'll call it a little overlook, right down here. So several years ago, we had talked about redoing it for ADA compliance, for kind of reshaping a little bit of this hillside and then putting in pervious pavers that would match the plaza up on top and then also the bandstand. So it was something that we had planned to work on, and as it came closer to the time for development and COVID kind of hit, so it put a little damper on trying to raise some funds for that too, so.
And looking at Wasserman Park construction, I see 1.8 million. Is that 2020?
The Wasserman?
The column just to the left?
Yeah, so that was 2020, and we'll owe some money in 2021. The land purchase was taken care of too, so those are all accounted for in,
Just didn't show the number. That's-
yeah. When I carried it over, I think it was good in the
I see
Excel
it,
sheet, yeah.
It's on this sheet.
Yeah.
not on them.
Yep.
Sorry.
Ann, and I just had a thought. looking at the tennis court at Lions Park and then pickleball courts, at Minnewaska and at Starring, both those pickleball courts have a tennis court at the end. Would there be any thought or worthwhile of incorporating, instead of redoing the tennis court at Lions right now, is to incorporate it into some pickleball courts?
And that's certainly something I think that the next phase, believe it or not, or the next meeting, whether that we decide to do a tour in July or if we actually meet in person, that pickleball court discussion is going to be on the next agenda. So we've got, we had looked at several options, whether it was Lions, Holy Family. I've got a couple other ideas that I will share with you at that point too, to at least. So yeah, I certainly think that's an option.
Yeah.
Okay, just as a reminder too, as we move forward with a recommendation in the capital improvement plan, this is a plan that will come back to us each year.
Yeah.
And the council will get this at their next meeting, whatever we approve. And, if they approve it, doesn't mean that they approve the individual items because of the dollar amounts on some of these. We will have to bring that back to them for a project. But this kind of helps the city with planning as far as what dollars are going to be necessary going forward. The interesting thing is once you start seeing the dollar amounts of all this, realize how expensive it is. And, there were a lot of things on our initial list that, we prioritized. And, this year we had, a new item that's never been on, or actually a couple items that have never been on our list before. So, this is subject to change, but it's kind of a long-range plan to kind of give an idea, at least to the council and to us as we do our planning as to what the financial needs might be here.
Yes, and I do want to note a couple things too. When you, the park dedication fees, they're towards the top. Those are kind of assumptions based on what we're kind of taking as we review things. So we had the Madeline development come in, the Rolling Hills North and South. We are getting some parkland from the northern piece, but there will also be some cash dedication. So again, we're just making some assumptions, and at this point, the cash coming in for park dedication, I've only gone out to 2023 because we don't really know what the future holds. But I would anticipate that we would continue to, as we continue to grow, we will still get revenues in, but for purposes of this discussion, it just went out to 2023. So, yeah.
And for my own benefit, what is the source of the park dedication fees? Who pays that?
So when a development comes in, I don't recall if it was last month or the month before, we looked at, it was called Rolling Hills South. That's where they were making they shifted the park from down along the railroad tracks, and now they've moved it up where the wooded area was. So developers are required to pay either a park dedication in land or in cash or a combination of the two. And it's based on a dollar amount and the number of homes per acre within that development. So there's a formula that we use that dictates what they pay in cash or in park dedication. So it's land, cash, or a combination of the two.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, other questions on the capital improvement plan? Did we nail it for our purposes here, or?
Yeah, so I guess one of the things that I wanted to talk a little bit about, I guess the, land for future community park. I just started putting in $10,000 annually. And at that rate, it's going to take us a really super long time to get to the, whether it's 3 million or, 6 million, whatever that figure is out into the future. That's certainly something for discussion this evening on your part. If that's the direction you would like to go, if you want to talk about, down the road bonding for something like that, that certainly would, look at only $90,000, but at least that would help as we move through this process. So.
Yeah, I almost think that we talked about a future park being a larger park by water. It's gonna probably cost more than 90,000 or 300,000 or a million.
I think I have 6 million in the budget.
So, I think it's fine to have a placeholder in here, just so we can have a discussion with the council, but I think that at some point in time, we need to have that discussion and probably come up with a recommendation for the council that said if land becomes available, we might want to consider bonding for that to acquire it, because it's not going to get any cheaper, or it's going to be gone, and then we won't have any options. So it probably depends how important we feel that is, and the council feels that future park is. And we talked about having water access at the next park, and I think we've kind of eyeballed, or at least had some discussion, is that Pearson's Lake is the one that we're ideally.
Yes.
I mean, there's probably some other options too, perhaps, but I don't know, what do others feel about that?
Well, I see it as a placeholder. That's something that's in the plan. We know 90,000 is not going to get us anywhere, but at least if something should come up where there's a grant or somebody and something, at least we've got a starting working budget at least we could use. But I just see it mainly as a placeholder to keep it in the forefront of what our future goals are.
Okay.
I got a question for Ann with the Parks Capital Improvement Plan and the Trails Plan. How does the funding for those two, are they coming from the same source? Are they the same type of fund? Are they actually competing for dollars? If we spend $1 million or $500,000, how do we rationalize park capital improvements versus trails, which are both important?
Yep. So the trail fund, and I think it was back in 2017, the city council created the trails fund, and we had a tiny bit of money left in the trail fund from years ago. So that, combined with the council decided to put $100,000 in with an escalator of $50,000 every year. So one year 100, next year 150, the next year 200,000, in order to build up that trail gap fund. As you know, our first one I think is over $1 million. If we're yeah. So grants for those are real specific to trails only. So DNR has a range of grants that you can apply for. Within the parks program, the council also is making a $100,000 general fund transfer to the park fund, and you can see that at the bottom, the transfer from general fund, 100,000. This fund also gets money from developers. This fund also, you can apply for grants that are more park specific or park land specific. So I view them as really not competing for those same dollars as they stand today. Now, if you're going to say, we're going to make an investment of $1 million in a piece of property, for example, would the council have the ability to say, yeah, we're gonna combine the two and that's what we're gonna go with? Certainly they could. I think the intent at the time though was to start addressing these trail gaps and build that fund up to use specifically for that.
Given visibility and.
So, but they certainly could if that was, a decision that they wanted to make.
Is it true that it's our role to identify projects in a plan within the context of what the council has set, which has been kind of the incremental approach to funding? I suppose at some point in time, if we felt that we weren't meeting the needs of the community, we could make a recommendation to them that would say, with interest rates low, if we have any capacity, I suppose it's the council would decide that. If we want to borrow to take advantage of that, if probably going to have to do that with a eventual park project that's $6 million unless, we wait, 120 years to get there. But that's certainly an option. But right now we're functioning within the plan that the council has come out, and we've been able to do a number of things with that. So it's an approach that gets us some progress. Each year it seems like we're able to knock off a bigger item. The trail this last year, or the park, which was huge, that was something that the council was really good at taking our suggestion and moving forward with that, and bonded for it, or took funds out of another fund that they had to make it possible. So, and then we have the trail and hopefully the pickleball courts, if that gets approved moving forward. They're fairly significant projects for our community. Other questions or comments for Ann?
I'm just looking for a comparable, Ann. So 6 million, several years out, that's the going rate on land. What do we pay for Wasserman's land? I see 842 for 2020. What do we pay in the years before that? Or was that it?
We bought the land for $850,000.
Really? Okay.
30-some acres of it, though.
Okay.
But we gave the wetland and all that to the district for purposes. So it was upland. It was 100 plus thousand.
Okay. Thank you.
The other thing, I think it's something that we have done well as a committee, and Ann has assisted us with this, and the council has done very well too at looking at is how do we share the cost when possible? How do we get others to participate? With the watershed district, that's a perfect example. The tennis court with Holy Families, another example of working together. And in the end, those are also government entities, and we're a government entity as well. So ultimately, it's the taxpayer. And so if we can share in that, we all have the same boss in a way, and that's the public. So other questions or comments for Ann? Are we ready to move forward with this plan? Do we want to, Ann, do you feel that the council's going to look for us to try to balance out and have concern about the 25, or do we need to address that now? Or
I think that in the previous plan, which it's in your packet, we had a deficit out into 2026, I believe it was. 2027 in the original pro forma before we started adding and subtracting projects. So at this point, again, it's just a working document and a plan, and every year we'll take a look at it.
okay, so if we just left it, and if I get asked a question on presenting this, just say that some of these are estimates. We feel we have room in there, and if not, we can push an item out a year Is that
Yes.
okay with the
Yep.
rest of the council or committee here? Any other questions? If not, a motion would be in order to recommend the Parks project. Somebody'd like to make a motion?
I will motion to recommend the park project and CIP as outlined be submitted to the city council for consideration in the 2022 budgeting process.
Okay, motion's been made by Don. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, seconded by Jeanette. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, a motion's been made to recommend the park projects and CIP as outlined be submitted to the city council for consideration in the 2022 budgeting process. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda is an update on the Bavaria Trail project.
I don't have any slides for you this evening, nor it's just pretty much a verbal update. So at last Monday evening, I provided the city council with an update on the Bavaria Trail East, and Larry was kind enough to attend that meeting. We did have some residents in the audience that had also been to our meeting back in March. One of the issues that once final design was completed and the design changed in a couple different areas to deal with some stormwater issues, to eliminate retaining walls. We found we needed at least 3 temporary easements or right of entry onto property to complete the trail, but we also ran into one where we needed permanent easement to construct the trail, and the property owner has expressed some concerns related to a lot of safety and liability issues with the trail going in. So the council was presented with that information. One of the things that we are continuing now to look at is possibly reducing the size or width of the trail, some increased signage, and then some increased language in our liability clause within that easement. So I am continuing to work with the property owners, and but the council recommended moving ahead with looking at reducing the width, foregoing the grant in order to get the trail done. So that is the direction that I am going, and we'll continue to work and see if we can get this thing done. So just kind of an update. Happy to answer any questions about that if anyone has any.
Any questions of Van?
And the grant was for 150,000?
Yeah.
And so will we be able to offset that, you think, with making the trail narrower?
A small portion of it, yes, but not all of it.
And I think you made contact with the DNR on the grant, and we can't move forward with just a portion of it, but Ann's probably going to continue to work with them to see if there's any other way that we might be able to salvage that, but I'm not sure at this.
Yeah. So yes, one of my recommendations, at least, to move forward with the trail from Alley Lane or the development hillside, at least up to County Road 18, because that's city property, right of way for the most part. And that the DNR said no, we couldn't use the grant for that, but a reduction in the width of the path is possible. We just need to work through a few details, and one of the challenges, we're just going to run out of time, unfortunately, because we've got to have the grant wrapped up, trail work wrapped up by June of 2022. So
Okay.
we'll see. We're continuing to plug away on it.
Can the easements situation or issues, can they turn out to be showstoppers?
Yes. They can.
And when would we figure that one out?
I have asked to get something in writing from the property owner, so we have something to react to. And I'm hopeful I will have that in time for a council update next Monday.
So hypothetically, the owner can say, I don't want to grant, or I don't want to cooperate with the city.
Yes.
And-
Yes. If there's easements needed for it, yeah. Yeah.
Which points to the importance of, any future developments, and we've discussed that, making sure that the trails are in from the developer to start with, and if there's any new roads that go in too, it's easier, obviously, to get those easements and the development thing, ahead of time than try to piece things together with a whole bunch of individual owners later. So I guess there's always ways to learn from things that don't go as smoothly in the end as you'd like, but hopefully it still will happen and we'll get it done. I know Ann's been working hard to resolve this issue, and I think's cautiously optimistic that she can get it done. So.
And I'm sure if we're having issues with, I think it was only three or four property owners that actually, private property owners on the east side. There's many more on the west side. We never get it through.
Yeah, there is fairly significant right of way on the west side as well. So, and I imagine that eventually that, when that is, I don't know, but I would imagine that eventually there will be trail on both sides of that road just because of how busy it will be as growth continues.
That road will be widened, I'm sure, before too long.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions for Ann?
I just want to say I was so disappointed when I read that. I just went, oh no, but I appreciate all the effort that's gone into trying to resolve it, come to some solution that would make it workable still. So cautiously optimistic is a good way for us to be.
Okay, anything else? Okay, next on the agenda, Ann had put in some articles of interest again. Hopefully you had a chance to read those. It's kind of interesting to see what other communities are doing and developments and issues that they have, both positive ones and challenges to things. So thanks, Ann, for putting those in. I guess that was just for our information. And then Recreation Center update is also on the agenda. You want to?
Sure.
Talk about
just,
that, Ann?
yeah, sure. Just providing the monthly report on our recreation center. We are actually moving back up with membership, so we're going in a positive direction for the first time in I bet a year. So as you can see, we're down about from this time last year. We're still down about 92 memberships. And several hundred members, but we now are open full-fledged. We're no longer taking reservations or appointments for visiting the facility, so we're back to pretty much operations as normal pre-COVID. So fitness classes are now back in session outside. We're still going full force with programs, so I'm hopeful that we'll continue to see people return. We're seeing it every day that somebody is coming back and using the facility, so I'm hopeful as time goes on here that we'll continue to recoup some of our people, and but otherwise things are going pretty well out there, so.
When we get back to that normal, right?
Yeah.
It's good to see membership starting to go back. That's a good sign. And I think, don't they usually pick up a lot in the fall?
Yes, when it
Too.
starts to get cold again, yes, people will
Yeah.
start coming back in, so.
Okay. Oh, great. I guess that concludes our official business. Just a reminder, the Lake, or Wasserman Lake Preserve ribbon cutting is coming up next Monday.
Yep, at 4 o'clock.
Hope you all can make it.
Try to get there a little bit early if you can, because parking is gonna be a premium out there, so, yeah, if you can bike or walk, that's good. There is some parking in the neighborhood that you can come in on the backside of the trail, if you need to, but we're trying to save that parking lot for, all of you guys, so hopefully or if you can carpool, that would be good too. Anything to help with the parking situation. And it'll be a quick ribbon cutting. The Minnehaha Creek Watershed District will be there, and their board, City Council, Parks and Rec. Some of the Carver County board members will also be there, so we'll get that ribbon cutting done. And
Is it operational right now?
we're gonna open on Monday. We did the final walkthrough of the park on Friday, and so they've got a few things that they need to get done this week yet, but we're hoping to get it turned over to the city on Monday and open.
Happy how it came out?
Yeah, for the most part. The drought is not helping anybody by any means. So we're gonna have a lot of plant material that we're gonna have to keep an eye on, and, if it comes back, great, and if it doesn't, we'll be, working with the contractor to get some of those replaced. So, I mean, a lot of the trees, have gone dormant, and I'm hopeful they come back, but you'll get a chance to see that, on Monday. But otherwise, things are, the signage, the hub signage, was installed. And I think I sent pictures.
Yeah, the pictures look great.
Yeah, so I finally got to see those last week, and they look beautiful. The entryway sign is supposed to be in. So yeah, it's really coming together. The signage on the building is in. And I'm getting a lot of calls and emails about, when is it open? When is it open? So we're shooting for Monday, the 28th, so.
That's exciting to see that come to be. I know this group and worked hard on making that happen, and Ann and her staff have worked really hard this last year and tying up things and working closely with the Watershed District and others to have this important thing happen for our community. So pretty.
Feel like we're giving birth to our baby. It's like, finally.
Okay.
It's been a process.
And then I'll be presenting our plan to the city council on Monday.
Yes, and our yearly work plan as well. And I sent you that information today.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So
Okay, anything else, Ann?
I do not have anything else.
Anybody else? Okay,
Oh, I do. So on the 19th, I don't know if you guys want to do a park tour or if you want to do, dive right into, start tackling the, some of the park projects, namely the outdoor pickleball courts. Or if you want to wait.
what's the preference? It's been kind of the tradition anyway, of once a year of picking several of the parks and going to take a look at them to kind of familiarize ourselves with future needs. And it's up to the group if you want to do that, or if we want to start right away on the pickleball courts.
So if we did meet and talk about pickleball next week,
Yep.
does that materially change anything?
No, I mean, one of the things we could do is go on a tour and look at pickleball court sites too. And,
Yeah, that might be interesting.
Yeah.
yeah,
Pick out a couple to look at and give us an idea.
yep.
So maybe tie it into if
Can we
there's,
do it all? I mean, look at parks and look at the pickleball sites, or is that, sun doesn't go down till 9:30?
Correct. That's why I know I want to do it in the summer, so we've got a little extra time. Yeah, I think that we can.
and maybe the parks we pick are the ones that are coming up for at least one for replacement, maybe
Yep.
a couple that are in that area that aren't, that we haven't been to recently.
Yeah, I'd love to do a tour. I think
Okay.
that's really awesome.
So, tour, and it'd be nice if we could kind of get an idea of a pickleball court or two, and that might help our discussion for the next meeting.
Well, and I do have a question. It seems like I've never played pickleball myself, but I know that some people have used like existing tennis courts. Is a pickleball court substantially different than a tennis ball court?
We'll let our resident pickleball question for you.
It's just smaller, it's smaller. And initially, when it first started, what people would do was they would line a tennis court
Yep.
with tape. But it became so popular and so much in demand that it's now, plus then you had to set up pickleball nets. Those are different than the tennis. So you'll see when we go on a tour that you'll see kind of, at least, I mean, if we hit Chan, there's tennis courts on one side and pickleball courts on the other. And then you can see how similar and
Good question.
dissimilar they are.
Yeah, and one of the things that, you know, we've got a couple areas that have, one's got 2 courts, one's got 1 court, and they just aren't enough court for pickleball. They need 6 at a minimum, I think, is where they're looking, so.
Because of the demand?
Yes, yep. And yeah, maybe we start like in Chan to take a look at pickleball courts there as a starting point.
Yeah, and then you can move to Minnewaska. Well, you'd have to go up on 7 because it's closed. But then you see how it's evolved.
How many do they have at Chan, Jeanette?
6.
Okay, so we'll have,
Those are probably the closest ones here.
we'll have Ann work out the details, and
Right.
as we get closer to next month's meeting, she'll get some information out to us. So anything else? If not, a motion's in order to adjourn.
So move.
Okay, motion's been made. Is there a second? Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're done for the day.
Hey, Larry, I think that's the fastest.